both the pandemic and also wars and other situations have shown the entire world that food security is an issue. And the global village where you were used to basically import commodities that are coming from natural resources from all over the world, it was taking for granted and as a given, and it's now shown that it's not.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Sharon Reikhav, Senior Director of Genomic Solutions at NRGene Ltd. How are you doing today, Sharon?
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about NRGene.
Okay, so I'll start with myself. My name is Sharon. I was born and raised in Israel in a kibbutz, in a dairy farm, very close to agriculture. When I came to an age of going to the university, I went to study animal science and then went on to a PhD in quantitative genetics and system biology. And then I went on for, I think, for the past 12 years, working in different ag tech companies in Israel. And I still work for such a company today, although for the last year and a half, I've been working out of Brooklyn, New York, instead of from Israel. That's me. About NRGene, NRGene is, as I said, an ag tech company. Founded in Israel in 2010, but that now has a Canadian subsidiary located in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. The main business was and is for NRGene the deployment and utilization of genomics in breeding in agriculture. And when I say breeding, I want to say that from the beginning, I do not mean genetic modification, GMO, transgenics. It's basically applying a more structured way to do whatever mankind has been doing to plants and animals since the beginning of history, which is selecting better genetic combinations that fit a certain need. You can look around you and see all the domesticated animals and plants around you are very different than their wild relatives, and this is because man has either accidentally or deliberately chosen the ones that are better performing for the use of mankind. What NRGene is doing is basically taking this to the realm of AI and big data, meaning nowadays you do not have to spend a lot of time and effort making observations, meaning looking at a natural variety and seeing if it fits something or not. You can actually predict it using DNA tests of different kinds. You can foresee what we call the phenotype, the observed outcome, and therefore you can actually develop better varieties faster, cheaper, and maybe even imagine things that you wouldn't necessarily have come by just a trial and error, which is the more traditional way of doing breeding.
That's a very important distinction, especially in terms of perception. You know, the consumers see those words GMO and there's a tremendous alarm. So there is no modification going on. This is just the modern evolution of natural selection, in effect.
Exactly. Exactly. So we can also spend some time speaking about is GMO as bad as it seems, but I think it's not the focus of this talk, and it's also not what NRGene is doing. So we can leave that to another time.
Leave that for another time. So who does NRGene work with? Are you working with the large agricultural companies, and who are your customers?
So let me start by saying that one of our major customers is NRGene. We've been, at the beginning, we've been actually working with those big ag companies, seed companies, also CPGs, some companies that you know their brand from your grocery store, but have a dependency on natural sources, and therefore has a built-in interest in making it better, more sustainable, better quality, or other attributes that they are after. We've been working with triple-digit number of customers for a lot of years, doing multiple projects, and I believe about 2 or 3 years ago, we've made a decision to actually use the same tools that we have provided as services to actually develop products of our own, either all the way, like those CPGs, to a brand that you see in your store, or somewhere closer to the final product. So we are now we are still servicing, we are still providing service per fee, but we are also in the business of developing our own varieties, our own IP, which is becoming more and more the focus of what we currently do.
Excellent. And is this mostly in the context of grains, or is it also fruits and vegetables? What are you working on?
Anything you can imagine. So grains, or what seed companies would call row crops, is definitely something that corn, maize, soybean, canola, wheat, and other such organisms, like the nice wheat field in my background, but also vegetables and fruits, and even insects and animals and fish, and source of fiber, meaning textile, like the cotton clothes that we all wear, rubber. Anything that I've said until now, we've done, we've worked, and still are working on. So,
excellent. And is this a completely international project, meaning you're working with companies from all over the globe, or is it fairly geo-specific?
We've worked in all continents but Antarctica.
If you can grow wheat in Antarctica, my friend.
Yeah, that could be a challenge. We have worked along the years with all geographies, but we do have a few focus points, working primarily out of Israel. Then Israel and the Mediterranean is one focal point, and another would be Canada, where a lot of the grains that we all consume are actually being developed and grown. But amongst our strategic partners, we also have global entities, and also companies that are based in the Far East. So we're pretty global.
Excellent. And what is the origin story? I know you said that NRG began in 2010. Is that correct? What's the origin story of the company?
So originally, it was solely an R&D company that was providing services for specific seed companies that were owned by one ag chemical company that was based out of Israel. After that company was purchased by a larger company, NRGene and other seed enterprises were basically made free to work with whoever needs its solutions. And then we had actually a very interesting, right? There was a challenge to produce the first reference sequence. A reference sequence is one, I would say, map of an entire genome. A genome is the total sequence of letters of DNA comprising an individual of a certain species. And one of the main challenges that the scientific world had a few years back was to produce the first sequence for wheat. Wheat genome is about 5 times larger than the human genome.
Really?
And it's also much more complex to handle because it has basically 3 copies, 3 subgenomes within it, which makes a challenge to actually piece it together in a correct way. And there was a big consortium, an international one, that was made in order to produce the first reference sequence that was working for a few years with a specific method. And NRGene was then commissioned to produce the first reference sequence in parallel, and we've managed to do that within 3 months. And basically, that same sequence that we've produced is now widely used by the entire wheat research and breeding community till this day. And then after that, we've done quite a few more genomes, some even more complex than wheat. And it's something that we have been very proud of until today.
Well, that's quite a responsibility, right? To lay out the map for everyone to move forward. That's quite a challenge, and congratulations that you were able to achieve that. Let me go down the GMO versus non-GMO rabbit hole for a second. So why has NRGene always stayed away from genetic modification?
Well, NRGene primarily is about data and not about engineering of genomes. I think we have stayed away because the large community, besides for certain applications, has, regardless of the reasons, whether valid or not, decided to move away from it. So we are kind of agnostic to that. We believe that a lot can be accomplished through conventional breeding, meaning without any intervention of the genome. And also, if you would like to do that intervention, you would be limited to certain applications that are favoring creating something that is synthetic, that is not present in natural resource. In fact, you can actually get a lot, you can achieve a lot by exploiting existing naturally occurring variation rather than trying to play God, so to speak, and to create variation yourself. Evolution has been working throughout a lot of time, creating a lot of very useful variation and deciphering those variations, and then using them to benefit food security, the environment, confronting with different geopolitical difficulties is something that is readily applicable, and we and not only we, others have also shown it to be very, very effective.
Well, the word perception is very important when it comes to the consumer, and the almighty words non-GMO seem to make everyone comfortable these days. Not everyone is a geneticist, and not everyone knows the realities of what could be possible through modifying genes, but perception is certainly very important. What are the most common problems and challenges you are solving for your clients?
So a lot of the times, I would say that, for example, customers that are not, their primary business is not breeding, meaning it's some type of processing or production issues, then they can identify the fact that a certain issue that's painful, whether it being sustainability or efficiency or waste or other aspects, can be solved through better genetics, but they don't have the bandwidth or the time to set up everything that's required to make genetics work for you. In those cases, we basically can first have a talk with such a partner or a customer, depending on the mode of business that we have, understand exactly what's needed and what sources of genetic variation can be used, and we can either consult or provide services, or even take the actual work upon ourselves to deliver something that's usable to our partners.
Excellent, excellent. Tell me about the last couple of years. I would think that in a lab-driven business where things are always hermetically sealed to begin with, that COVID wasn't necessarily such a huge impact directly on you, but there had to be some ripples through the industry. Tell me about how you've been able to grow the business in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I would say that primarily we were a software and data company, meaning the effect of COVID on our business was not that big, although a lot of our customer base are, and I don't think I need to tell anyone the fact that business is usually better held when you at least meet face-to-face once in a while. So that has been a challenge for us and also for many others. One thing that we have accomplished despite COVID is the fact that really at the turn of the pandemic, we've actually established our first hands-on wet lab facility. And that was in parallel and posed a few challenges, but we're very happy to see it progressing. I think nowadays a third of our, or even more than a third of our personnel is employed at that site that was actually founded during COVID. I think both the pandemic and also wars and other situations have shown the entire world that food security is an issue. And the global village where you were used to basically import commodities that are coming from natural resources from all over the world, it was taking for granted and as a given, and it's now shown that it's not. Besides meeting production, which is an ever-growing problem because of the human population, also those situations of either a pandemic or the war in the Ukraine or other occasions really show the fact that you need to be able to grow and to produce everything that you need, and not to rely on a source that is very remote from you. It's also not sustainable, besides the fact that it has certain challenges. So I think this really plays into what we've been saying all along, that you can actually develop and adapt a lot of available genetics to be used in different applications, and we can do it very fast.
Well, hey, it's not hard to notice that the Israelis have always managed to adapt and be agile and do whatever's necessary, to have flourishing vineyards and various crops in the middle of the desert is something that most people would think is not possible. And obviously, the Israelis don't like the words "not possible," right? But I would imagine that, our supply chain issues have been exposed to the point where your services are needed all over the world. We just cannot rely on ships getting to port in a timely manner. And with things like fruits, vegetables, and grains, there's a clock ticking. Here in Los Angeles, we could see dozens and dozens of tankers and cargo ships waiting to get to port in the height of the pandemic. And my brain went to, that's not all electronics out there. There are perishable goods on those boats sitting there for an extra month. And that's untenable, aside from the, the environmental impact of sending a giant ship around the world just to get something. Yeah. No, so I appreciate what you do, and you're helping the planet move forward, I would think. Tell me about how NRGene has been able to get the story out so people know how to find you and do business with you.
So we have a website, it's www.nrgene.com. I think that would be the most common way to get a hold of us. Although we are a pretty small company, the main thing is to get the word out that we exist, and also a bit about what it is that we do. It's sometimes a bit complicated to someone that's not from our niche, from our field, and I believe that people within our niche are by now they know about us, they know of us, but we believe that our reach, the actual markets and uses that we can contribute to are larger than the localized niche that we've been working at for the last decade or so.
What is something that you would like to be celebrating personally and professionally 1 year from now?
Well, I haven't discussed specific projects that we are involved with, so I can maybe use this as an opportunity to kind of give a taste. So we've been working a lot in tomatoes.
Okay.
A year from now, we would like to be in a position where there's actually a tomato brand or variety that you can actually buy and eat. I believe that we can be there in a year's time. We've also started to work in insects. We hope to be in a position in a year from now where there's a genetically adapted, well-adapted black soldier fly insect that we have developed for a specific use. One thing that is closer to my heart, at least, we've been working a lot on the application of vertical farming to feed livestock. Instead of growing a whole field with a lot of land and water usage and also some other limitations, we are working on developing wheat and barley and other cereal varieties to be grown in vertical farming instances, facilities close to where you grow dairy cattle, for example, so that you can provide better, safer, more environmentally friendly nutrition, and therefore, and also contribute to lowering the environmental impact, the negative environmental impact of the livestock industry. So we hope to also have a wheat or barley variety that is well adapted for that application within that time. And we are also working in different organisms like canola and tomato on disease resistance. So plants have diseases.
Oh, yes.
And some of them are devastating, and the search for naturally occurring resistance for different plant diseases is everlasting, and we are developing such sources of genetic resistance, non-GMO again, in both canola and tomato, and we hope to actually be able to provide that to the whole community, whoever is is working in these species also in actually less than a year's time in this case.
Well, I thank you for your work. I mean, it's incredibly important. We all know that the natural resources are are in flux, shall we say, right? We've become aware of lots of things going on this planet, and people are like you are going to help us continue to thrive, and I thank you for that. Sharon Reikhav, it's been fascinating having you here today. So please tell everyone again your URL where they can find the company and what social media channels your company is using these days as well.
So the URL is www.nrgene.com. There's also another URL for our Canadian subsidiary, which is www.nrgenecanada.com.
Okay.
And social media, we are active in LinkedIn. Very naturally, we also have a Facebook and Twitter account. And besides that, we are very outgoing people. If you reach out to us by any means, I'm pretty sure you would get a way to have at least an initial discussion with whether on investments, employment, and also actual projects, which we are always on the lookout for.
Excellent. I wish you and yours and NRGene all the best in the future, because it can only be good for all of the rest of us. I thank you for spending some time with us today on Business Ninjas.
Thanks you, Andrew. It was a pleasure.